The series begins with the sheriff, Beck, who lives in an underground bunker. He has never left it in his entire life, and he knows nothing about the outside world. He picks up his badge, leaves his room, and walks through the bunker feeling hopeless and sad. He doesn't understand why he's living there, and he wonders whether there's any life waiting for him outside or not. He keeps asking himself who built this bunker and what they want from them. The sheriff arrives at his office and writes a specific message to his assistant. Then he asks him to send him into the cell once he finishes his coffee. Beck enters the prison cell, locks himself inside, and throws the key outside. The assistant sees what he's doing and is shocked by his behavior. He assumes the sheriff is doing this because he wants to go to his wife, who died outside the bunker. The sheriff admits that he does want to see his wife, but no one is allowed to leave the bunker unless they're dead. That's why he decided to break the rules and rebel against the bunker so they would take him outside. He remembers the past, when his wife was still alive. They would wake up in the morning and drink their coffee as usual. One day, they received a message from the bunker administration informing them that their request for Allison to become pregnant had been approved. Everything inside the bunker followed strict laws, even reproduction. The couple was overjoyed. They had been waiting for this approval for an entire year. Everyone in the bunker congratulated them on the happy news. There was an old woman named Gloria, known among the people as the fortune teller. She went to Allison and told her she would take care of the baby after it was born, and invited her to visit her room so she could give her some advice about raising children. But the sheriff didn't trust that woman, telling her to leave because she had never had children and had no experience with them. Allison visited the doctor, who removed her birth control capsule. We learn that this was her third attempt to get pregnant, but every attempt had failed for unknown reasons. Unfortunately, this was also her last chance. Allison did everything she could to get pregnant, but nothing happened. She was very worried because she had only a few fertile days left. If those days passed, she would never be allowed to try again. The bunker had already given her multiple chances, and all of them had failed. The next day Allison went to work, and her supervisor yelled at her for publishing an article about the deleted bunker files without his permission. He told her the article had already been removed. Later, Allison told her husband about it, still confused about why they didn't want anyone to know what was in the old files. We learn that there is a group inside the bunker called the Rebels. They constantly tried to escape and uncovered the bunker's secrets. They were accused of erasing humanity's history before entering the bunker. Strangely, anyone who tried to investigate old history would be punished and sent outside. The sheriff lies to his wife and tells her it's better not to get involved in such matters and to follow the bunker's laws, because if she disobeys, they'll send her outside to die, just like they did to the rebels. But Allison refuses to accept that. She is determined to uncover the truth, especially with her limited time left to get pregnant. That day the bunker was celebrating Freedom Day, a holiday marking the elimination of the last rebel. Allison looks out the window and sees that the outside world's condition is getting worse. We learn that anyone who breaks the bunker's laws is sent outside to clean the bunker's glass dome, and then dies due to the harsh weather conditions. The founders of the bunker want people to see how terrifying the outside is, so they never think about running away. Allison visits Gloria again to get more information about the rebels. She asks her about their history, but Gloria doesn't have an answer. Then she shocks Allison by telling her she'll never be able to have children, and that the bunker's founders are the reason, because Gloria herself had tried many times and failed. Allison tells her husband what Gloria said, but the sheriff believes the old woman is delusional and tells her to stay away from her. That same day, a programmer named George asks Allison to come help him with some programming work in his workshop. Even though it's Freedom Day and everyone else is celebrating and drinking, the sheriff has work, and Allison tells him she's working too before leaving. But in truth, she goes to meet George. George is very excited to see her because he read her article about the deleted files. He shows her an old hard drive, turns it on, and tells her he can't access the files stored on it. Then he asks for her help. At that time, we see the mayor delivering her speech in front of the people, congratulating them on the 140th anniversary of establishing the bunker's laws. She tells them that throughout all these years, the founders defended those laws and fought the rebels who tried to escape to the outside world. She also explains that the rebels destroyed all information about humanity's old history, but the founders of the bunker managed to preserve some of it. Meanwhile, Allison manages to open the files, and the moment she sees what's inside, she becomes terrified. She leaves and asks George to destroy the hard drive so nothing bad happens. But George decides to dig deeper into its contents. He finds a file containing the bunker's map, and when he opens it, he discovers a deep tunnel under the bunker that no one knows about. Allison joins the people celebrating the 140th anniversary, but her mind is still stuck on the information she saw the night before. The sheriff notices that his wife is upset and tries to find out what happened, but she refuses to tell him. The next day, Allison is at work, but she asks for leave and goes to see Gloria to ask why she was never able to have children. After that, she returns to her husband and tells him she's taking the day off because she's tired, but she actually goes to George and asks him to show her everything he knows. He opens a file about the outside world, and she is completely shocked by what she sees. Allison then returns home and receives a message from the doctor telling her that her time is up and she needs to come to the clinic tomorrow so he can reinsert the birth control capsule into her body. Allison asks Beckett to go ahead to the clinic the next day and says she will meet him after she finishes work. The next day, the sheriff goes to the clinic and waits for his wife, but she doesn't show up. He goes to look for her in her office and doesn't find her there either. When he finally returns home, he finds her sitting and crying. She tells him the bunker will never allow her to get pregnant again, because only loyal and obedient people are allowed to have children. She then shows him the birth control capsule she removed from her body to prove she's telling the truth. Sheriff Beckett is shocked and rushes to get the doctor to stop her bleeding. When he comes back with the doctor, they don't find her in the house. Instead, she's in the dining hall exposing the bunker's secrets in front of everyone. She tells them that the administration has been lying to them all these years, and that the outside world isn't dangerous at all. In fact, it's beautiful. She announces that she wants to leave this place. By saying that, Allison violated the laws, because stating a desire to leave requires the sheriff to arrest her and put her in the holding cell. The mayor tries to help the sheriff find a way to save his wife from this disaster, but there's no solution. Everyone saw her break the rules and declare her wish to leave. The police search Gloria's home and George's workshop to figure out where Allison learned all these secrets, but they find nothing. Sheriff Beckett goes and sits in front of his wife's cell, knowing that only moments remain before she's released into the outside world. Meanwhile, they are preparing the suit she will wear when she goes out. Allison tells her husband that she hasn't lost her mind like he thinks. Everything she said is true. She reminds him that every person who leaves the bunker is forced to clean the outer glass dome while everyone watches from the dining hall. She tells him that if she goes outside and finds no life, she won't clean the glass. But if the outside world is beautiful, she will clean it, and that will be her signal to him. She tells him she will walk across the snow and, once she discovers the truth, she'll come back for him. Allison puts on the suit and prepares to leave. They give her a cloth to wipe the glass, and her husband gives her a heartbreaking farewell speech. She also says goodbye one last time and steps out while everyone watches her from behind the glass. Allison approaches the dome and wipes it clean with a smile on her face, meaning the world outside isn't dangerous. She walks a little further until she reaches a tree, then collapses and dies. 2 years after the incident, the sheriff's assistant comes to inform him that George died shortly after Allison went outside. People say he slipped on the stairs and died in his workshop, but a young woman named Juliette doesn't believe that story and wants the case reopened. The sheriff examines the body but finds no sign of murder. The only person who truly knows what happened to George is the mechanical engineer Juliette, since she was his close friend, and she is certain he was killed. After that, the sheriff goes to meet Julia so he can hear from her what really happened. We return again to the present, where we see Sheriff Beck inside the cell. We learn that he decided to enter the cell himself, and go out into the world because he wants to search for his wife. He tells his assistant that his meeting with Juliette changed the way he thinks completely, and that he regrets not believing his wife. He's certain she didn't die, and that they've been lying to them. A little later, the sheriff puts on the suit and heads out into the world, while everyone in the silo watches him, Juliette included. At that moment, the sheriff is shocked by what he sees. His wife was right. Life outside the silo is beautiful, but the leadership had been fooling the residents into thinking the outside world was destroyed using visual effects displayed on the glass. He keeps walking until he reaches his wife's body, then removes his helmet. He immediately begins choking and can't breathe, and ends up dying right beside her. Juliette becomes furious because she thinks he tricked her. Inside the silo, people start screaming and fighting because they're shocked that the sheriff turned out to be a traitor, something that has never happened in the silo's history. But the law officers tell everyone to calm down. Juliette goes down to an underground room and screams at the top of her lungs to release her anger. Meanwhile, the sheriff's assistant opens his will and finds out he requested that Juliette be appointed as the new sheriff after his death. At that time, Juliette keeps herself busy with work so she doesn't have to think about what happened. The assistant goes to meet the mayor, and finds her sewing clothes for newborn babies. She tells him she used to sew 25 outfits a year, but now she can only manage 5. She's upset because she sent the sheriff outside, something that had never been done before, and she doesn't know who to appoint in his place. The assistant doesn't tell her about the sheriff's will for some reason, and she offers him the position, but he refuses. She explains that she searched through all the old records to understand the causes of the uprisings over the years, but found nothing. She's scared of how the people might react, and she's right to worry, because people in the silo have started buying metal tools and fighting, and rebellious behavior among the youth has increased. But the law officers have been keeping things under control so far. One day, Juliette is in the workshop helping an elderly woman. The woman notices Juliette is upset and asks her to share what's bothering her. Juliette tells her she's troubled because of George, and she's sure he was murdered. He wanted to tell her something important before he died, but he never got the chance. We jump back to the past and learn that Juliette and George were in a relationship, but it was extremely secret. On Labor Day, George met her for a minute and asked her to see him that night after the celebration. Juliette stayed late at the event, then remembered and rushed to his place, but he wasn't there. She only found his bag, inside it a strange little toy and a note asking her to meet him at the last place they were together. The next day, Juliette goes to the cafeteria and notices people giving her strange, sympathetic looks. She doesn't understand until she finds out that George died, and because everyone knew they were close, they felt sorry for her. She breaks down in shock but forces herself to stay composed. She goes to a lawyer and tells him George was killed for unknown reasons and that she wants justice. The lawyer informs the sheriff, who then meets with Juliette. She tells him George didn't fall down the stairs like people claimed, he was supposed to meet her that day. She insists he was killed during the night, and of course there were no witnesses because it was so late. The sheriff notices she's wearing a strange-looking watch, but she tells him it's just a common watch everyone has. The sheriff goes with her to the morgue to inspect George's body, but they find no signs of murder, no bruises, no injuries. After that, they have lunch together, and the sheriff asks her to tell him everything she knows. He promises not to get her into trouble or report anything to his superiors, saying he genuinely wants to help her. She takes him to her room and shows him the toy and George's message, then leads him to the address written in the note, a strange underground place he has never seen before. Julia opens a metal hatch, and they enter a large space filled with drawings and carvings on the walls, clearly made by people who lived there before the rebellion. They go down a ladder into a tunnel and find themselves in a massive cave. Juliette turns on the lights, and the sheriff is stunned. There's a giant machine in the center. It looks like the machine that dug the silo, but the founders couldn't remove it, so they hid it underground. Juliette tells him she knows nothing about what's going on, and that the people who lived here had been brainwashed. They approach the huge machine, and see that George had built himself a small shelter next to it. He spent most of his time there, collecting artifacts he found around the cave. Juliette finally understands why he kept their relationship secret. He was afraid she'd be punished if he got caught. She shows the sheriff the items George collected. Then she spots a wire on the ground, and they follow it until they find a bag containing a hard drive with notes written by Allison. The sheriff realizes his wife knew the truth about the silo but never told him. He insists they need to burn everything before anyone finds it and gets them in trouble. But Juliette gets angry and reminds him that his wife died unfairly because he refused to believe her and listen to her. Her words hit him hard. He starts crying and tells her he loved his wife deeply. He would go every day to the cafeteria just to look at her body through the window, and he never wished for her to die. He then decides to change his mind and help Juliette uncover the truth. Back in the present, the elderly woman tells Juliette she was wrong for being so harsh with the sheriff, and that's why he didn't trust her. Juliette admits she gave the sheriff only half of George's note, and that he kept the other half. In the second half, George wrote that he had finally found what he'd been searching for, but it was more dangerous than anything he had ever discovered, and it could cost him his life. Juliette leaves the workshop, and the old woman wishes she won't suffer the same fate as George. Meanwhile, the sheriff's assistant confesses to the mayor that Sheriff Beck requested Juliette to be the next sheriff, but he doubted her abilities, which is why he didn't say anything at first. The mayor decides to meet Juliette to see if she's fit for the position. Juliette remembers her conversation with George, when he told her about a secret door underground that leads to the outside world, and that reaching it requires swimming underwater. And we learn that this was the dangerous secret he meant. And here we reach the end of part 1. If you enjoyed the series, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to support the video with a like and subscribe to the channel.